To access supplementary materials to this lesson, go to murphymusicacademy.org/violin-101. Link in the description below. Learning to hold the violin and the bow. It all starts here, folks. Welcome to Violin 101. First things first, if you didn't see the last video where I introduced Violin 101, that this was a project that I was going to be doing, I do want to make sure that everyone knows that they can contact me with any questions they have about each individual lesson. So if you have any questions like, after today, am I holding the violin right? Am I holding the bow right? Were my directions really clear? It'd be good for me to know, were my directions clear enough for you to do everything correctly? Please send me a message. Now, you have a variety of ways in which to send me messages, in which to send me pictures or videos of yourself doing the things that we've done in the lessons here at Violin 101. The first way is through my email. You can send it to me at tobiah@tobiahmurphy.com. The other ways are through Instagram. You can find me at instagram.com/murphymusicacademy, or you can go to me at Twitter at twitter.com/academymurphy, or on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/murphymusicacademy. Now, you of course are invited to send private messages. I understand if you don't want to put all of this stuff out to the world, but if you are feeling exceptionally brave, you can post a public video or photo of yourself doing what we're doing in the lessons to either Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and tag me and include the hashtag Violin101. And now that we've got all that out of the way, let's get started. Now, of course, first things first, you are going to need a violin. Here's mine here. And what you are going to want first to do is to put the violin in what we call rest position. So to find rest position, first you need to take your violin and put it up against your right side right here, and then take your upper arm and put it over the chin rest. Make sure you do not put it over the bridge like this. You don't want to add any extra pressure here. Put it nice and securely on the chin rest like this, and then take your forearm and place it underneath the violin so it kind of rests in the violin like this. And there you go, rest position. So from rest position, what you want to do is make a little C with your hand, grab the E string side shoulder of your violin firmly, and pretend that there is a marker on your end button right here, and then we're going to draw a line from our side to our left collarbone up here. So like this, just drag it across your body and let it rest on your collarbone. Now, what you want to make sure is that you find a place on your collarbone where the violin can rest purely with gravity. So here you see I'm holding it here, I'm not grabbing it, I'm holding it here, and it's not going to fall off. Now, once you have the violin on your shoulder, there are two things that people tend to do as common mistakes. One of them is to let the violin sort of drag and fall down here onto the chest. Now, this is because people are used to trying to hold the violin in place with their chin. Now, if you get used to holding the violin in place where you just, when you first start out, you just let the violin sit here and you're okay with that, don't get worried if it's going to fall. If you do think it's going to fall, then practice over the couch or something. Get on your knees, practice directly over the couch, and just get used to the fact that the violin is going to sit up here, and if you have it at the right spot on your collarbone, it's going to be just fine. Now, the other side of this, the other thing that people often tend to get wrong, is that they bring the scroll too far in front of them this way. And to find the right angle for the violin in relationship to the shoulder, there's a little trick that you can use called zip and step. As you can see now, I have the camera pointed down here towards my feet, and how this works is you put your feet together straight in front of you just like this, and then you unzip your feet like this, making roughly somewhere between a 45 and a 60-degree angle, and then take your left foot and make a small step forward, and that is it. Now, once you've done this with your feet, all you have to do now is take your violin elbow and place it over your left foot. This will give you the exact right angle for your violin in relationship to your shoulder. Now, once we have the violin from rest position to our shoulder at the right angle, now it is time to put your chin on the violin. So keep everything the same. Your head should be straight during this entire process. Keep your head nice and high and straight. Turn your nose. Look straight down the violin, right at the scroll, and just let your chin go. That's it. That's all it is. Just Whew, okay, good. Back down, sitting down. This is a much, Much better angle for me. Yeah, just camera angle down. That's standing up. Not a good look. Not a good look. Cheap camera too, but still, not a good look. Anyway, some of you might be wondering, if you're familiar with the violin at all, is how to keep the violin held up without really putting a lot of pressure on your chin. As you notice, that is the last thing I want you to do, and that is because I come from the philosophy of violin playing, which is a much more old school philosophy of holding the violin primarily with the left hand. Now, I believe that violin playing is best when you are playing with the most efficient movement possible, the least amount of tension possible. And so for me to start out students playing by telling them they need to learn how to hold the violin up through sheer force of their neck like this, it's just a really, really awful way to start out violin playing. Now, the best viewed video on my channel is a video entitled How to Play the Violin Without a Shoulder Rest and Why You Should Care. Now, it could very well be the reason that you're here. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It'll explain my philosophy on how to hold the violin and shoulder rest and all that stuff. However, if you do feel that you need something, either a pad or a shoulder rest, I would recommend you have a pad. I actually use a pad myself, but you can still learn how to hold the violin primarily in the left hand, even if you need a little help down here. And now, back to our scheduled programming. So, the violin is on your collarbone, your chin is on the chin rest, and your hand is right here, which is a problem because you typically don't start out playing in fifth position. So, to get the hand from the body of the violin down to where it needs to be on the neck in first position, you need to follow these steps. First, grab the violin with your right hand. I like to grab it right here, but you can grab it here or anywhere else. Just know that you're going to have to use your right hand to support the violin for this. So, once you have the violin secure in your right hand and in your chin, then take the left hand like this, touch the violin, the side of the neck, right here at the base of your index finger, and slowly drag your hand across the neck all the way down to the nut. And make sure your wrist is straight by the time you get here. Now, once your hand is down here at this part of the violin, down here, then take your thumb and just tap on the other side of the neck, right next to it, right next to the nut. Your thumb should be touching the violin just above this knuckle, just under where the nail is on the pad of the thumb. So to show you how to get from here to here in one fell swoop, it should look something like this. Your chin is on the violin, you grab the violin with your right hand, you take the hand, put it next to the violin like so, drag it down all the way down to the nut, tap your thumb, and then just leave it there. Whatever you do, don't squeeze. It doesn't need to squeeze. What you're trying to create here is a little wedge. So your violin basically can just sit right in here. You don't actually need to squeeze. You just need enough secure closure here, so it's just enough space where the violin can sit right here, but there's enough space for about a finger to fit underneath the neck of the violin and the webbing in your thumb. And that, my friends, is a step-by-step process on how to hold the violin. Now on to the hard part. The bow. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes that violinists make not just in the early stages of learning, but often even past the intermediate stage and even to the point where they get pretty good, is to focus more on what the left hand is doing than what the bow is doing. Now, obviously, if you are the average person watching a concert, you are going to be focused on what the violin hand is doing, because that's the flashiest, most obvious part. That's the thing that looks the most interesting to the uninitiated viewer. However, there are little subtleties that are happening in the bow arm of a great violinist that you probably wouldn't understand until you've really studied the violin for a long time. But that is what makes the bow arm so difficult, and why the bow arm should be king, why the bow arm should be the biggest focus of your playing, even from the beginning stages. All of the movements are a lot more subtle, so they're a lot more difficult to master. It is because of these subtleties that the bow hold, especially in the first year, is the thing I most often have to correct in my younger students or in my newer students. So, for you learning across the internet, you are going to have to pay extremely careful attention to how you're holding the bow. Always make sure that you are doing it correctly. This is a lot more obvious than the little things that happen when you're trying to hold the bow correctly. So, how to hold the bow. First thing you need to know is that the bow hand is based off of sort of the loose, limp hand as it would sit like this. So first, you want to grab the bow in your left hand, about yay, in this part of the bow, and then you want to take your loose hand and you want to take the bow stick and put it up against your middle finger, this top knuckle of your middle finger, while it's still loose, in between the frog and the grip right here. So basically place it right here, push it against there, keep your fingers loose. These two fingers will basically drape around the bow at this point. Then take your thumb and just tap the stick right across from where the middle finger is. This creates basically the center of your bow hold, the fulcrum of your bow hold. Now, once you have the middle and ring fingers and the thumb on their positions in the bow like so, what you're going to need to do is stick your arm straight out here and then use the rotational movement of your arm forward towards your body, which is called pronation, by the way, new word for you, until your index finger touches the stick right here on the winding. And it should be touching the stick on this middle bone right here. Now, the reason I need you to stick your arms straight out before you do this rotational bit, before you do the pronation, is because if you don't, almost everybody, instead of actually using the pure rotational movement of their arm like so, they end up just sticking their elbow up like this. So we don't want that. All we want is for the entire arm just to rotate and just leave the finger on the stick like this. Now, once you have all of these four fingers in place, take your pinky and put it straight down. Keep it nice and curved as it would be if your hand was just like this, and put it straight down on the tip, pointing straight into the stick. Now, if your pinky nail is too long, it can be kind of hard to do this. It'll want to slip around. So make sure that you've at least trimmed your pinky nail before learning to hold the bow. Now, during all of these steps to form the bow hold around the bow, you should be holding the bow with your left hand. So now that you've done all 5 fingers, move the bow straight up like this, let go, and see if you can keep all of the fingers of the bow exactly in the same place. Make sure you're not squeezing. Try to hold the bow as lightly as possible. Think that the friction in the fingertips is going to hold the bow more than squeezing it will. And then, once you feel comfortable with this, practice slowly rotating the bow this way and this way, and see if you can keep all of the fingers in the exact same shape, in the exact same places, while you move the weight of the bow from one end to the other. So when you have the bow here, more of the weight is going to be on your pinky, and when you have it over here, more of the weight is going to be on your index finger. And that is it. That is how you hold the violin and the bow. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at the locations I provided earlier in the video, which I will also put in the description below. And do not forget to check out the supplementary materials to this lesson at murphymusicacademy.org/violin-101, which will also be in the description below. Now, I so hope that you join me next time when we actually take the violin and the bow and put them together. But even in this first lesson, even in this most basic part of learning, always remember, while you're practicing all this stuff, while you're practicing just holding the bow and the violin, even then, there is no pleasure in mediocrity. I've been Tobias Murphy for Murphy Music Academy, and I'll see you next time.